Karen mentioned those, both written communication and oral communication. Highly important. If you like people and you like schmoozing, you're good on the oral. But there's one part of oral communication that most people are not very good at. Any thoughts about that? Anyone think, what's the word I'm thinking of? I'll give, yeah? What? Were you putting up your hand or were you just scratching your ear? Yeah, sorry.
Listening.
You got it in one. Did everyone hear that? Listening. How many people have talked to someone and they're on broadcast mode? And there's no room for you to talk. Or you tell them something, you open your heart out and you say, I'm really having a problem with this person. Yeah, I had a problem too. And before you know it, you're talking about them again. So you have to cultivate listening skills. And the reason why is because another skill is the ability to work in teams, teamwork. Both Karen and Dan either explicitly or implicitly mentioned that you'd be working with other people. And a friend and a colleague of mine who I respect highly, whose name was mentioned, Doug Barber, he's in Hamilton. He's somewhat of a mentor. We work together a lot. He taught me something very interesting. I was talking about my company, and we're only 8 people. And I was complaining to him probably about one of my staff, and he said, it's very interesting. People are very different. And he said, when you're hiring someone, if you just hire people like yourself, and the team is made of all the same type of people, you're not going to succeed. He says, you succeed by working in a team where people are different, and you capitalize on those differences. So you have to tune into someone who's different from you. That's not better or worse. It's just different. And you have to learn how to work with them. And build on what they're good at. And build on what you're good at. So everyone's contributing what they're good at. And the things you're not so good at, be self-aware. What you're not so good at. And be open about it with your teammates. And your users and customers, which will be hard. So teamwork is very important. And related to that, what I was just talking about is respect. You have to respect other people. You have to respect their differences. You don't go at the water cooler and complain about your other person because, it'll get back to them. Do you understand how gossip works? I'll tell you how gossip works. Dan, I heard this thing. Don't tell anybody. And I tell Dan. And Dan turns to Karen and he says, Karen, I heard this thing, but don't tell anybody. So he thinks he's done his job because he's told her not to tell anyone. And she'll say the same thing, and before you know it, everyone knows about it. And everyone thinks that they were very discreet and said, don't tell anybody. If you don't want anyone to know, don't say it. So you have to learn respect. So these are these human skills that you have to develop. And humility is another one. And humility is an interesting human skill. Most people, when they hear the word humble or humility, it means, I'll sit in the background. I'm a nobody compared to all these great people around me. Humility isn't that. Humility is taking up the appropriate space. Not too large, but not too little either. Because you're a great person. And you have a space you should take up. Just like anyone else. So humility is a balance thing. It's not a doormat thing. And it's a respect thing. It's a self-respect thing. So these are human skills that if you can demonstrate them in an interview or when you're working, you're going to go places because that's what we need in a global world, in a competitive world. These are the human skills we need. And nimbleness was mentioned, so I just want to underline that. A can-do attitude and being proactive. If you see a problem, the thing that's so destructive is they see a problem and say, but that's not my responsibility, so I'll keep my mouth shut. Well, just speak up. Say that's a problem. Let's solve it. What can I do? Okay, so in the spirit of skills, I want to mention one other thing which I've done a lot of research on, And we have a big problem in Canada as a culture. And we're not user-customer oriented. I was very gratified to hear Dan talk about relationships and users, and the fact that he was actually telling prospective employees that they're going to have to go outside of the library. Holy moly, that's good. You're going to need to do that. And we've done studies of high-tech companies, and I'll tell you one quick factoid, and then I'm going to pass it over to Ken. We interviewed former CEOs of companies that no longer exist. They either went bankrupt, they were liquidated, they were sold, whatever, and investors in these companies. And we found an amazing thing. They were well-financed by venture capitalists and people like that. They lasted on average 7 years before they disappeared. Do you know that out of 18 companies, 8 of them never had a customer? And 9 of them never had any sales. And they're going on happily doing research and getting money from investors. And they were technically brilliant people. Technically brilliant. Second to none around the world. But they had no idea who they were doing it for. So when you're going to work for an organization, understand who their customers are, who their users are, who are they serving. Canada has 70% of the economy is a service economy now. Manufacturing is only 30%. Who are they serving? Get to know their customers. Get to know the challenges. And listen to the customers. And I'm using customer as a word. You can think user if you're totally public sector. Library has customers. An archive has customers. I'm a historian of science. I love libraries and archives. I lived in them. And your profession was what made me able to do my work. So those are some of the thoughts. We can talk about more stuff later. Thank you.